Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today in this video, we'll be discussing on how we can export an email in EML format with having no attachments inside that email using Power Automate. So that's what we are going to discuss here. And this tutorial was actually inspired from one of the question which is asked by a user in the Power Automate community forum. So what the user requirement was like, he actually need to add the email file to a task in the planner, but that email file shouldn't contain any attachment, even though it contains attachments when the email was received. But when you are attaching that email file, that email file will be exported as email file, you can assume that. So when you export it as an EML file, it shouldn't contain any of the attachments which may be earlier present in the email. So how we can do that using Power Automate? So I have figured out a solution where we have to use some graph APIs and all to deal with that. So let's see how we can do that. Okay. So for that, what are the steps which I'll be following here? So here, the steps which I will be following here will be the mainly three steps I will be following. Once, I will be using a trigger to monitor when the email arrives in the particular mailbox. So that is the first. We'll be using a trigger to check the mail arrival. And second, what we do is see, since our requirement is to export the EML file, and the EML file shouldn't contain any attachments. So what we can do is, um, we can copy that mail which is arrived to a sample folder. Okay, and then we'll be using that email present in the sample folder to do other operations like deleting the attachments from that email and then exporting it as EML file using Power Automate, so that so that the original email that is present in the inbox won't get affected. Okay, so so our second step would be copy email to a folder. Okay, and third, do all the required operations on the copied mail and export it to EML format. So these are the three main steps that we are going to do using Power Automate. And here we will be utilizing some APIs which will help us to copy the email and also to delete the attachments from the existing emails. Got it? So let's go to our flow design. So here you can assume that this is a kind of email that we'll be using for our demo purpose. As you can see, there are around 5 zip files attached to this particular email. So maybe what my requirement is, the bot should when it export it as an EML file, that EML file shouldn't contain any of these attachment. When we open that EML file, it should only contain the email body and everything. It shouldn't contain the attachments. So let's see how we can do with Power Automate. So let's go to the Power Automate portal, and now let's create a new flow. So here we'll be trying to create an automated cloud flow, because we want to do this when an email arrives in the mailbox, right? So we can create an automated cloud flow which runs based on the trigger when the email arrives. So let me give a name, something like Outlook email delete. Okay, Outlook email, I would say Outlook, I would say email attach email export, just any name, which whatever name you find good you can put. So now I will be using a trigger when email arrives. So I'll be using Office 365 connector. So I'll be switching to Old Designer. So now, yeah, so now we'll be using the trigger when the new email arrives. And let's go to the advanced properties. So okay, so let me so maybe since I don't want my process to run on every emails, okay, because then so let's say if any random email comes, this process will trigger. So to restrict our process to trigger only the emails, specific emails, what I will do is I will try to put the subject filter. So something like attachment test email. So that when the flow will checks whether this email arrives in the mailbox or not. If this email arrives in the mailbox, okay, definitely we can give a trigger. Okay, so it's better to put a subject filter whenever you are dealing with when email arrives, so that we can filter it better way. And now once we put this data, and now we don't have to change all other values, let's keep it as default. I think you can take this value if you want as yes. Okay, and now the next step would be what? So once the email arrives in the mailbox, as I told you, we don't want our email in the original inbox should be affected, like it shouldn't be affected, because our requirement is we don't want this attachment when we are exporting it as a EML file. And in that case, what we can do is we may not need that original email present in the inbox to get affected by deleting the attachments from the email itself. So what should be the alternative way is, you can copy this email to some other folder. Okay, you can copy this to some other folder, and from that copied email you can do delete operation, and then you can export that email to to an email file format. Got it? So that would be a better approach which I could suggest, because I couldn't find any APIs which can help us to directly deal with EML files. So I'm trying this approach. So our next step would be, we can copy that email to a particular folder. So here I have created one folder named NN. So what I can do is I can copy this particular email which has been received to this particular NN folder. Okay, so for that, for copy, we have one graph API. If you see, we have one graph API which actually helps to copy a particular email or message to a particular folder. As you see, its documentation you can find under this particular link, which I'll be sharing in my video description as well. And you can see it's how we should send the message, and how should be the URL endpoint, and what should be the request body. And with the example itself, you can clearly understand that what we should how we should write that API, right? So you can see that we have to pass the destination ID. Actually, destination ID represents the ID of the folder where we need to copy this particular email. So in our case, we want to first figure out, before implementing this API operation, we have to first figure out what is the ID of this NN folder. Okay, so for determining what is the ID of this NN folder, what we can do is, we have another API. We have to call another API whose name is list mail folders API. So using this list mail folders API, we can list all the folders that are present under this particular Outlook. And and if you see its a simple example, you can see its output response. You can see that we'll get an array of folder details. So each array represents a folder detail, and inside that we can find that there is an ID attribute, and you can use this ID attribute of that particular folder to which you need to copy that message. Got it? So in that way you can achieve the copy email functionality. So let us do that. Okay, so for calling this HTTP request and all, because these are graph APIs, so we have one action in the Outlook 365 connector itself, whose name is sent HTTP request. Yeah, so here what we'll be doing is, we have to give the full URI, and we have to specify the method and the body if it is needed. Okay, so let's so our first scenario is, we have to get the list of all the mail folders, all the mail folder details in our account. So for that we'll be using this API. So I could say in the documentation itself, it's very easy to get the idea. So what I will do is, I'll be using this one. So if I just pass this one, and if I just use a get operation, I just want to show you how the output looks like, okay, using the compose operation. So now, okay, now I'll just save it. So now, okay, so I have to run this flow for this. So let me create one test email for this purpose. Okay, so I will be passing the email to me and then test email. So I'll be attaching some files here. Yeah, okay. So I'll be just sending this email, like I'm sending this email to myself. Yeah, now you'll see our process will trigger. Okay, let's wait for some more time. Yeah, you can see that our flow ran successfully, and here you can see that it will give us the list of the all the folder details which is present in the Outlook. The output of this particular URL or API would be we will get list of all the folder details present in this Outlook account. Okay, and but there should be an easy way to filter based on the folder name itself within this API. In the API we can specify a filter operation as well. So if you can also do that as well if you want. Okay, so but okay, you can also do that, like based on the display name you can get the corresponding ID as well. It is also possible. You can directly pass that in the URI itself. So let me modify that. So maybe based on, because the display name is the name of the folder, so what I will do is I will copy this display name. There is a filter, you can also use filter within this API itself. For that what you have to do is you have to use this one, filter equal to, I will specify the property name equal n. Okay, so if you want to get more details around it, you can even get it from here. Maybe about the filter operations and all, you will get it from here. You see this one, like how you can use the filter operations. You can get a lot of examples from here itself. Okay, so you can refer this link and all. I will be sharing all these links in the video description. So now what I will do is I will just try to run this process again, but this time I will select automatically triggering the flow because I don't want to send the email again. It's just like I just want to show how the output looks like how this API operation will actually helps to filter the data based on the display name. You see? Yeah, now we only get the folder detail corresponding to NN because we have specified that filter here, right? This is OData filter query. So so this is quite easy. Now what we have to do is, now this is the ID attribute. Okay, so this ID attribute represents the folder ID. So now what we'll do is we will capture this ID and we'll be using this for copying our email to this destination folder. Okay, based on this ID. So let's go back to edit the flow. Maybe if no, I don't think we need it for reference. What I will do is maybe I can even delete the compose action because we don't need it anyways. So now what we'll be doing is we'll be using another send HTTP request because copy operation also utilize the HTTP operation request because we don't have an action for that in the Power Automate for copying a mail from one folder to another. So we have to rely on the Graph API itself. So this is the documentation for the copy operation API. So let me head over to the flow and let me use send HTTP request to perform the copy of mail from one folder to another. So here maybe I will give a descriptive name, something like copy email, okay, so that it's very easy to understand. Now we have to pass the URI. So you can just refer the documentation if you don't know the URI, how the URI should be passed and all. So if you go, we'll see what should be the parameter we should pass here. See, it's a post request, and here we have to pass the ID of the uh, message, like which the ID of the message we have to pass here, and also in the body you have to pass the folder ID here. So let's head over to the flow design, and now let me copy this one, okay, and just paste it here. Now what I will do is, instead of ID, I will be passing an expression which will captures the ID property from the from this HTTP request output, okay, where we have list the folder names. Sorry, my bad. So this we have to pass the message ID. So here we have to pass the mail ID. So here I think we have to pass this one, message ID, okay. And now we have to select the method. So method here should be post, because we are doing some post operation here. And now we have to pass the body content. So if you see the body content over here, this is how the body content should look like. So we can just copy this here, and then we can paste it here. And now what we will do is, instead of this destination value, we'll be passing an expression which will captures the ID from the body of this from the body of this HTTP request, which captures the details of the folders, okay. So for that, what we'll be doing is, we'll be using an operation. So let me just paste it to get the dynamic content. That would be easy for me, okay. I'll be deleting this one, okay, cool. So this is the body of the HTTP request of this one. Now what I will do is, or better, what I can do right now is, I can just change its name for better idea, list mail folders, okay, that would be better. So otherwise it would be difficult to understand what this action will do. It's better to always provide a descriptive name. So now what I will do is, I will copy this one, because I need to get a JSON structure of that. So now what I will do is, from this body I need to get the value property, because inside the values property inside the value property, I have the list of the mail folder details. So what I will do is, I will use values property, value, and then this is an array, right? So from I know that the output of this send HTTP request, which actually lists the mail folders, will only have one mail folder details, because we have specified a filter anyway, right? So anyway, we'll be having only one output, or one element, or one mail folder details will be present there. So what we can do is, we can use first operation to get the first mail folder object details, got it. And from that I will be extracting the ID property, okay, which will represents the ID of that particular folder. Okay, sorry, I think I have made a mistake. Let me check. So let me, yeah, perfect. Now it works up. So you see, it will captures the ID, and now it will does the copy operation here. So now what we'll be doing is, now let's see how the output of this copy operation looks like. Okay, so let me just use another compose action which will show me the output of this particular copy email HTTP request. Good. Let me save this flow and just trigger it automatically based on our previous trigger results. So now let me go here. Yeah, you see that the flow ran successfully. Yeah, and if you go here, so we have attachment test email in the inbox. So maybe let's go to n folder and see whether that email is present there. Yeah, you can see that the email has been successfully copied to n folder, right? So now so what I can understood here is the operation was successful. So now let me delete this email because I did it for just demo purpose. And now let's head over to this output of this copy email. So let's see how it looks like. You see it has some properties, right? So this actually represents the property of the email also, like the email ID of the copied email and other details, right? So this actually represents the property of the copied email, because copied email would have different properties as comparing with the email that is present in the inbox. Maybe the ID may differs and all. Okay, so now what we'll be doing is, since we are able to copy the email from since we are able to copy the email from inbox to this NN folder, now we can utilize the email which is present in that NN folder to do other operations, like to delete the attachments from that NN from the email in the NN folder, and then export it as an EML file. And later, if you want, you can delete that email that is present in that NN folder, because it is just done for temporary purpose, right? So we can head over to other steps. So now we have received our, we are able to copy the email. So now what we'll be doing is, now we'll be only working with the email which is copied in this NN folder. So first what we have so see, our next requirement should be what? So since we are able to achieve the second step, now we have to do the third step, like we have to delete all the attachment that is present in the copied email, and then we have to export it. So let's do the first operation. Let's delete all the attachment that is present in that copied email. For that, what we'll be doing is, first we have to get the details of that particular copied email. For that, we'll be using get email action. If you see, yeah, get email action. And now here we have to pass the ID of the email. So for that, what we'll be doing is, if you remember, the output of this particular HTTP request actually contains an ID, right? That ID, I told you, represents the ID of the copied email. So you can utilize that so that you can get the email properties. So you may have a doubt why we are using this get email action. The get email action, if you have seen the properties, or if you have seen the properties of this send an HTTP request copy email, you have seen that even though they have mentioned that attachment details are there, but they haven't mentioned the details of the attachments, like attachment ID, attachment content ID, like that. So to get the details and of that particular copied email, like these attachment details and all, that is why we are utilizing this get email action. Okay, so for that, first we have to pass the ID of the email. For passing the ID of the email, we have to write an expression which captures the ID from the body of this sent HTTP request output. For that, if you go here, maybe you can just copy the JSON structure of this dynamic content, write it. Now now we get the message ID. Okay, that ID actually represents the message ID. Now I just want to include the attachments, so I will put yes. Okay, maybe other properties I am not considering it. Now what I will do is, now the next step is, we can loop through the attachments and we can use another HTTP request, that is a Graph API itself, to delete the attachments from the email. But Just you have to note that, see, in this if you see this attachment, right, there is you think that there is only zip file as an attachment, but you have to consider that this Power Automate, when it extract the attachment details, it also extract the details of the inline images, like this signature, right? This signature is an inline image, right? So it will also extract the details of this inline image as well, so it will also consider it as an attachment which is attached as in the body of the email. So what we have to do is, when we specify the attachment which need to be deleted using the HTTP request, we have to specifically remove out these inline images, because see, signatures, right? So we as in our email we have signatures, and maybe when you are exporting into EML format, you want to preserve the images, you only want to delete the attachments present in it. So for that, what we can do is, we can specify a filter operation on this attachments output, which is we are getting from the get email action. Okay, I will tell you how to do that. So I will use filter array. So these are some optional steps, you can do it or you cannot, you can even skip that if you don't want. So now we'll be using filter array. In that, you can see the get attachment property, yeah, from the get email. So take this one in the from part, and the value section, what you can do is, you can see there's a property called attachment is inline. So attachment is inline property actually is a boolean property. It gives true if the attachment is an inline, means when it is attached to an email body, and it gives false when the attachment is not pasted in that email body, like the zip file which is attached with this particular email, right? So we can use this and we can filter out the attachments which are inline. So we'll do this, and we only need the emails, we only need the attachments which are not inline. So in that case we will provide false. Now the output of this filter array will only contain the attachment details which are not inline. Now we will be looping through the list of this non-inline attachment, and we will delete it from the email which is present in that copied folder. For that, we will be using apply to which. Inside the apply to which, we will be passing body, which is the output of the filter array. And now what we will be doing next is, we will be using another HTTP request which actually helps to delete the attachment. You see, this is the documentation which is to delete the attachment from the email, and you can see the permission details and how the HTTP request and what kind of HTTP request we have to pass, that is delete. And also you can see that this is not only used for emails, but you can use it for events, even for calendars, and also for mail that we are going to utilize. And you can see how we should what should be the format of the API, like it should have the ID of the email. So maybe I think maybe, yeah, you see, it should have the email ID, and then it should have the attachment ID of the attachment as well, which we want to delete. And it should also include the complete URL is looking should look similar to like this. Got it? So let me copy this one for better understanding, so for easiness. So maybe I will copy it from here. Okay, now just I think, oh, sorry, I think I have copied it from me, so now I will be using this one. Okay, now in the ID, right, what I will be passing is, I will be passing the message ID. The message ID will represent the ID of what? The ID of the copied email. So if you go here, I have already used the message ID in this get email action, right? So I can just copy this one, and I can just paste it here, the expression. Yeah. Now in the attachment ID, right, what we have to pass is this one, the output of the filter array, and this operation should be what, delete. So now what it will do is it will delete all the emails from that, sorry, it will delete all the attachment present in that particular email. So now once it is done, what we have to, so let's see how it works. Okay, if you want to see how it works, let's see. So let me just make sure that okay, I don't have that. Okay, so now what I will do is I will run it based on the automatic trigger, because I don't want to run it manually, because then I have to send the email once again. So I can just avoid it. I will just see that. Now you see, oops, I think I made a mistake there. Yeah, sorry, I think I have to, yeah, this one. I just run it again. Yeah, now it works. I don't know what happened earlier, but now you will see the results. Okay, now you see it has deleted one attachment, because that was what we have expected. So if you go to our copied email, you see, maybe I have to refresh it. Now you see it doesn't have the attachment details. Okay, so it has updated that email not to include the attachments, right? So now what we'll be doing here is, now we will export this particular email to an EML file. Okay, so for that, what we'll be doing is we'll be using export to email, export email option, and here we'll be passing the ID of the email. So what we'll be doing is we can pass the same ID, right? What ID we need to pass? We need to pass the ID of the copied email. So I can just pass it here, and now we'll get the output of this export email should be the content. Okay, so what I want to do is next what I want to do is I want to create a EML file out of that email content. So what I will do is I will use create file. I'll be selecting the site address. I'll be selecting okay, so what I will be doing is I'll be specifying the subject. Okay, maybe that would be better, subject.eml, so that EML file name should be the subject of the email dot EML. Now I will pass in the file content, which is the body of the export email. Good. So now once done, let me just run the workflow. So now what I will do is I will just remove this one. So now what I will do is I will just run the flow. To see what happens. So everything has been successful, only the create file is pending. Yeah, so the create file also has been created the file successfully, and you can see this is the name of that particular email. So let's go to this particular folder path and let's see whether this EML file has been successfully created or not. So for that, what I will do is I will go here, go to SharePoint. So let me go to SharePoint. Okay, so I'll be selecting this one, documents, alert emails. So here you can see this is the if you see here, the file name was what? The file name was attachment test email, right? So you can just open this one to see how the emails look like. You see, there is no attachment being attached with the email. If the email, if with this EML file, if the attachment was attached, they in that EML file itself they have mentioned that there are two attachments or there are one attachment. But since we have deleted the attachments, so the attachment details were not shown. Okay, so this is how you can actually delete the attachments from an email which has been received. Okay, so you can so this can be done for use for different purpose, like the purpose which actually I had mentioned earlier, which was being raised by a user in the Power Automate community forum. So that actually has inspired me to create this tutorial. And while doing this tutorial, we have also understand that there are many useful APIs within our for interacting with the mail, for interacting with these mails. Like we can use HTTP request or the Graph API to copy the email, and also we can even delete the email as well. So sorry, we can even delete the attachment from the email as well using this Graph API. So I hope you have got a clear idea around this one. So let me know if you have any questions or any doubts regarding this. So that's all from my side. Thank you.